Hello, Physics 101 students. We're back. The orientation continues. It is much longer than I expected. Let's go. So here we are. We stopped on the lecture content, right? We're describing the list of equations, math review, access to your textbook, lecture slides, sample tests that you should practice. Then we have here this still on the lecture part of your menu in Blackboard. There's this link here that is called Tests Proctored by Instructor using Zoom. So lecture material is going to show up here, the link to our lectures here, lecture content here. This is your homework, weekly homework on Expert TA. We talked about it in the previous video. The extra credit we talked about in the previous video. Let's click here where it says tests. These are the lecture tests, okay? Proctored by instructor using Zoom. So this is a big chunk of your final grade, right? The lecture tests. So how will the lecture tests happen? They are related to the lecture, so they happen on Mondays. So that's when we meet virtually, right? So what we'll do is we'll have the lecture being proctored online using Zoom. It cannot be using Blackboard Collaborate because as you see, as you start using Blackboard Collaborate, it does not show, it shows everyone. It shows a maximum of 4 people, right? You can all turn on microphones, I can hear you, but I cannot see all of you at the same time. It's a limitation Blackboard Collaborate. Anyway, Zoom, I can see everyone. So if you've never used Zoom and you don't have it installed on your computer, you should install it. It's free. The person who pays the account is me. This is all explained here. So you need to read all these instructions here, but I'm explaining to you how the test will happen. So our tests will happen on Mondays. They will last 1 hour and 20 minutes. So what I will do is the Zoom links, you're going to click on these links on the day of the test. So test 1, you're going to click on Monday, September 27 on this link. It's going to ask you for a password, a passcode. You type, it's called motion in that case. And then the link will be available at 5:50 p.m. Okay, so I expect all of you to get in a few minutes earlier so that we can set a few things up, because I need to see the surroundings where you are working, especially the surface where you're working. So if you have a computer, if your camera isn't attached to a computer like mine, it's really hard to tilt things around, but you can do this once. So I will need to be watching. So everybody is, once you're there, I'm going to ask you one by one, can you do this? Can you do that? So I need to verify your environment, and I need to see you putting your cell phone away out of reach. Okay, so this little choreography needs to be done before a test begins. So that's why we entered, right, Zoom a few minutes earlier. Your test officially begins at 6 p.m. and it goes until 7:20 p.m. Okay, all the tests will follow the same idea. So your test will show up underneath here in the same directory in Blackboard. You know, test 1 will show up as a file here, and it's only going to be available in the short window of time. So by 6 p.m. you'll be able to click here and see. So you will be in Zoom, right? Just like I am, I'm recording this in Zoom, and you will also be accessing your, your screen to read the test on the screen. I may also ask you to share your screen in the future. So we'll see how things go and how is the level of, right? We expect honesty always. So here we go. It's explained here. After you solve your test on a piece of paper that you're going to have on your surface, you're just going to have paper and pen and pencil and a calculator and your list of equations and nothing else. So you're solving your test. Then I will be watching as well. After 7:20, you pick up your phone. If you finish your test earlier, you can also do it earlier. You will pick up your phone. You know, I will be watching at all times. You will scan the pages and you will send the PDF to me. How are you going to send the PDF? You're going to upload it in Blackboard over in a link that is right here. It's going to show underneath the task. So you upload a PDF, a single PDF. So those of you who don't have experience on how to scan multiple pages and turn that into a single PDF file, we will, there are instructions on how to do this in Blackboard. So here, let me go now here on this link that I overlooked before. Do you see here it says how to? So click here where it says how to and invite you to explore everything, right? These videos that I'm recording to you, they're already over 30 minutes long. Imagine if I were going through everything in detail, right? Enormous. So there are things that you must explore on your own. So in this link, how to, it just is here to help you. So it says how to use Blackboard, general instructions and tools, how to study and succeed in physics, how to access instructors' office hours and help center, how to access class recordings, how to collaborate with your classmates outside of class time, how to scan assignments properly. So here you go. We want this link here, okay? And we go on, there are more how-tos here. So let's go on the scan assignment properly, okay? So there are free apps you can install in your phone where you can, that they do this job for you. You scan several pages, you just say scan page 1, and then it says, do you want to end or do you want to keep scanning all the pages? You say keep scanning all the pages, and it will know how to put together in one single PDF file. Anyway, so there are a few ideas of Adobe Scan seem to be the most used scanning app by a lot of my students. Here I'm showing you pictures on what not to do with your scans, because as you're scanning, also take a look at the product, the result of your scan. If you don't have, you never want the page to be tilted. You never want it to be too far away, right? And you want there to be enough light. So that is your responsibility. And yes, if the scanning is poor, I will not be able to grade you. And that's a big problem, isn't it? It's a big problem now. The classes are online. There's a remote online aspect. It's your responsibility to do this well too. Okay, so pay attention to your scan. Is it too dark? Is it too far away? Is it tilted? Do again. Do it again. You will have 10 minutes by the end of the test, say from 7:20 to 7:30, to upload, to scan and upload that in Blackboard for me. I will be watching. I can see when the uploads are coming. So by 7:30 p.m. done, all the uploads have to be inside Blackboard. There are many students that will complete the test earlier, so they can do this process of uploading and everything earlier. But you always have an expected only 10-minute window of time to just take those pictures, upload. Okay, it should not be taking forever. Okay, so I will ask you during the semester that you practice with this of scanning, right, with an app. In fact, I think I will provide you with an activity or something where you can upload something that you scanned several pages so that I can tell you you're good, you're doing things right, this is gradable, this I can grade this, okay? But you can already do that on your own and install the app and practice. All right, so this how-to link is going to be useful to you in our Blackboard menu. So we went through all these items here on tests and lecture information. Let's talk about the lab. Okay, so here we go. Now we are in this part of your Blackboard menu. Laboratories will happen in person on Wednesdays, right? Classrooms T12 and T15. So let's click on this icon here. This is this item, lab content. So lab content, what do I have here for you? So we have the schedule, how you'll be graded on in the lab. We have a link to the physics lab manual. So this is your lab manual. It's free, okay? And it has a lot of information that you'll be able to access during the semester as you're preparing your assignments, as you're preparing your lab reports. So how does the physics lab manual look like? You click here, and this is how it will look like. It's a Google Doc, okay? So, so it has useful skills of a scientist, uncertainty and errors, types of errors, how to estimate errors, and many of these things we'll go over in our first lab, or lab 0. Significant figures, rules and conventions, error propagation formulas, which you do not need to worry about in Physics 101. So this lab manual is for all kinds of classes, even those that calculus-based classes. So there's all levels of instruction here. Now, having said so, I think what is written here about uncertainty and errors and significant figures is too high level. No, it is, let me tell you, it's not high level. That is, you must know. It's just some bullet points here will not be for you. And all the others will be for you. Okay, so there's not such a thing. This was written for another level than me. No, this was written for your level. It's when a complete bullet list is not for you, then that's not for you. So error propagation is something you guys don't need to do because error propagations use calculus formulas. Comparing two values, that's for you. How to insert equations in Excel. Eventually you will be using, you may want to use Excel. So yeah, that's something you can look at. Graphs. Graphs with Excel, graphs by hand, all these things you can look at. Okay. Lab report, format and grading rubric. Of course, you need to know how to write a lab report, and this is for you. Sample of a lab report. Okay, and the final last two bullets are things that you don't need to worry about in Physics 101. Okay, so you can click on those links and go straight to those parts. This lab manual has 34 pages, right? Anyway, certainly we go over uncertainty and errors in the first class. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to estimate errors, how we're going to be calculating errors in Physics 101 in our labs. We'll go over these formulas. We'll use these formulas even in the first lab, okay, first assignment. Rules of significant figures, you'll be using that in lab and lecture, okay? So there's a lot of nice things in examples here so that you get the stuff right. Again, we'll go over those as much as we can during the time for lab 1. Error propagation formulas, as you see here, some funky symbols because it has to do with derivatives. And so that's not for you. And it says here clearly for 132 to 32, you know, so that's not for you. Okay. And then we go on comparing two values. That does not say it's not for you. So it is for you. So many times in your labs, you will be calculating something called the percent difference or the percent error. And these are ways to calculate the percent difference or percent error. What type of calculations are this? This is when you're comparing two values, okay? And there's all the explanation here. How to insert equations in Excel. There are video tutorials, etc. Graphs, explain what are error bars, and these are things you will go over a bit in our first lab 0 as well. What is a good graph? What is a bad graph? What are the issues? And so you see the cross here. What are some of the issues with each one of these graphs? Okay, so you learn by looking at those examples. We prefer linearized plots. What does that mean? We prefer plots that end in a straight line. And there are ways for you to make all plots end in a straight line. So that's what that session is all about. And whenever needed, that requires a bit more math. And whenever needed, I will instruct you about that. Okay. But the rest, graphs with Excel, if needed, you have tutorials here. And graphs by hand, the first graph you do will be by hand, so there's also a tutorial here, okay? We'll go over some of these things in Lab 0, but this is the resource that you will go over and over again every time you need. This is always available here to you, okay? It's our manual. This is how you'll be graded on lab reports. Lab reports will only be required after lab number 3. So for the first labs, I'm not going to be strict concerning this format. So you do not need to follow this format. But after after lab 3, you will need to follow this format. So inside the physics lab manual, you will always go back and find these instructions. So you will come back and look through this many times. Okay, so here we go. That's our lab instructions with information for you. A lot more information about lab instructions. This is an example of a lab report, okay, with a very simple type of lab, an example, and keeps going, and then the conclusions, okay? There's more things written than a normal lab report here. Your lab report's actually not going to be a huge thing. It's not as big as this. It's just that I am having to explain a lot, so it ended up being big, right? Okay, the remaining parts, as I told you, are not for you. And as I say here, I'm very clear, this is only required for 246 students. So, but other students are welcome to try, but anyway, this is not for you, okay? So it is very clear. I don't want people saying, it's confusing, because really, well, if there's anything that you feel can be improved, also let us know. Of course, we'll keep improving this. All right, so that is our physics lab manual that you will go back and use throughout the semester, okay? Finally, let's go through the lab instructions. So the lab instructions will be provided to you for free, and bring them to each class. So on Wednesdays when we're meeting on campus, I expect you to have those lab instructions either printed or on a device, a tablet, your own personal computer, or your cell phone already downloaded, because the internet connection in our campus is not very good. So do not wait to use our wireless connection on campus, because things will probably not upload or download. So what I need you to do is bring them to campus and figure it out, okay? Lab instructions, let's click on lab instructions here. So for instance, they are all here already available for you, the 11 labs, right? 0 through 10. And the very first lab is this lab 0 that we'll be doing together. So when I click here, for instance, the instructions of our lab 0, it's called measurements. Oh goodness, this should have been lab 0. So all these adjustments, I will adjust all of that. These are lab 0, measurements, uncertainties, and graphs, okay? So as we go through this, you will see some things here, some information similar to what you saw in the physics lab manual, right? But that's because this is an equation we'll be using throughout. So we start with exercises about significant figures. Some of these we'll do together, and the others you complete on your own. Again, some will start together, the rest will complete on your own. Then you will have a caliper in school, and we'll split the class into hopefully two students only per table, and you will be, each one hopefully can have a caliper, and you'll be doing your measurements. If we don't have instruments for every single student, sometimes you need to work in pairs. You can still be a distance away, or benches, lab benches are very big. But you will be sharing materials, and then later, you wash your hands, clean up the materials, etc. We'll be working with a caliper, making measurements. We'll be working with micrometer, making measurements. We'll be practicing now how to calculate area and volume with those tools. Then we'll talk about repetitive measurements. What if you do something repetitively? You take measurements repetitively. So when you take measurements repetitively, which will happen during the semester, then you need to calculate the standard error of the mean. That's the uncertainty of the average of the repetitive measurements. So we'll practice that with the pendulum in class. We'll complete that. And then you have your final assignment is to make a graph by hand, a manual graph. We'll provide you with the graph paper, and you take home, and you will do this at home. And here's the table that you'll be plotting, and you'll be plotting error bars. We have the explanation. We'll give you further information during the lab one. Okay, as you can see, 1 week later, you have an assignment to do. And what is your assignment? To complete everything that hasn't been completed in this, to do the graph, right? And to complete the quiz in Blackboard. And so on. For instance, another lab we have here, lab number 3. This is the one where you start needing to write a lab report. So all the previous ones, you're just doing like lab assignments. Now, lab 3, this is about the 4th week of class. We're already asking you to now go back to the lab manual and do a full lab report. So you have all the instructions, and you see that at the end, it says report due in 1 week. Okay, so that's not assignment. We're making a distinction between assignment and report, so it's a full report. So every week after you finish the experiment in class, you will be, for the next week, writing this report or assignment, completing the assignment, and you will also be completing a quiz in Blackboard, right? So let's take a look at this quiz in Blackboard. So let's go here. It says lab quiz to be completed individually, not group work. So let's click here where it says lab quiz, okay? So you will have 1 week to complete each quiz. The quizzes must be completed before the next class. So no late quiz will be accepted, but remember that the lowest quiz grade will be dropped at the end of the semester. Each quiz allows 3 attempts. 3 attempts. I forgot to say that to you. It's written in your course outline, but your homework also allows 3 attempts. So you do attempt 1. If it's wrong, you see something saying that's wrong, so you can try again, 3 attempts. 3 attempts for quiz, 3 attempts for homework until you get it right. Okay, so quiz 1 is not showing here yet. It's only going to show, or quiz 0, right? It's only going to show after first meeting, our first lab. Then you have a week, and you always have to prepare assignments, reports, and quizzes before the class. Right? There are some students that think, but why can't I go until midnight? It's on the day you set into the day. No, it's before the class. Don't leave it to the last minute. Just don't leave it to the last minute. All right, so here we go, quizzes. Submit lab reports. So once you have reports and assignments to submit, okay, they will be submitted here, okay, 1 week after the lab. So if you look in our schedule, right? Let's look at our lab schedule here. The first lab 0, 1, 2, as you see here, due dates, you always bring the assignment to class. You're going to bring the assignment to class. But after October 6, you will be uploading in Blackboard as a single PDF file, right? So you'll be writing the lab report, creating a PDF file, and submitting here, okay? The next thing I want to show you here is where it says my grades. My grades, so your grades are going to be showing to you throughout the semester. As things are being graded, they will pop up here in Blackboard, okay? And there is going to be a final running grade being calculated throughout the semester, okay? So you can keep track of your progress throughout the semester. So no excuses that you don't know about your performance throughout the semester, okay? This is it, guys. I think I've covered most of the items that we needed to talk about, but there's a lot for you to browse on your own. And remember, if you have a question, send me an email, right? You go here, course outline, and here's my email address, and ask me the question. But hopefully after you browse through a lot of things, a lot of questions will have been answered, and we'll have opportunity to answer any other thing that comes up during our first meetings of class. Okay, all the best, good luck, and welcome.